I'm Jssel Blackmore, and today we're going to be making some herb focaccia bread. So this is a super simple bread recipe. You can use it to make almost anything, loaves of bread, buns, little like mini loaves, pretty much anything. It's very versatile. So we're going to start by having 3 cups of lukewarm water, and we're going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar. And then to this sugar water mixture, we're going to add our yeast. So the sugar acts as food to the yeast, which is a live active ingredient. And so we're going to put 2 tablespoons in here. And the warm water and the sugar, in about 5 minutes, this is going to bubble up and it's going to be all ready to make our bread. So just stir it a little bit and we'll let that sit for 5 minutes and we'll come back to it and it'll be all frothy and bubbly. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, and as you can see, there's lots of little bubbles forming on the top of the water, yeast, sugar mixture. So that tells you that it's ready to go. So from here, we're gonna add a little bit of oil, about ½ a cup, and I'm just using an olive oil today. You can use really whatever oil you've got. I would suggest kind of a healthier oil. Grapeseed oil is really good. Camelina oil is great. But if you've just got a regular vegetable oil or canola oil, that's fine too. So we're just gonna add that right in. So I've just used an active dry yeast in here. So we've got the sugar, the water, the oil, and the yeast. And I'm gonna add a little pinch of dried oregano in here. So this is a really common herb to use in focaccia, but another great thing about the versatility of this bread is you can add whatever you want in here. If you want sun-dried tomatoes, if you like rosemary, if you want basil, you can add anything to this dough and it will work. It turns out every time. So we're just gonna add a few cups of flour at a time. For this recipe, we're gonna add about 5 to 6 cups, but we're gonna start with 2 cups. So just gonna add them right in, and just using a whisk, I'm just gonna stir it for a little bit until it almost looks like a pancake batter. So at this point, we're gonna add the salt to the bread. If you add the salt right away at the beginning, it can counteract with the yeast, and sometimes it doesn't rise as well. So once you add the first couple of cups of flour, then we'll add about 1.5 tablespoons of salt. And you could use garlic salt in here too if you wanted. So now we'll just continue by adding our flour. And that's just 1 more cup. So once the dough starts to get too thick to use your whisk, then I just set it aside and we're gonna finish the rest by hand. I've got this little handy tool, so we'll add the rest of our flour, which will give us a total of 5 cups. And we're just going to, from the outside of the bowl, stir the flour into the center. So you can see already, just as you mix it, it starts to form a dough, and it's a lot easier to do this by hand than it is with a whisk, because your whisk will just end up getting clumped up with bread and it just won't work out. So this is a lot easier. So once it forms into a dough in the middle, just gonna add a little bit more flour. You want this dough to be a little bit wet, and it's gonna rise and almost double in size. So we're just gonna knead it a little bit. Now I'm gonna turn it out onto the surface, and we're gonna continue to knead. So with a little bit of flour just on the surface that you're gonna knead the dough, just dump your bread. And this process develops a lot of gluten in the bread, so it'll make a really nice, fluffy, soft consistency and texture. So it doesn't need much. The more you knead the dough, the tougher the bread's gonna be. So you just want a little bit until it all comes together and forms into a nice ball, nice dough ball. So from here, you can do whatever you want with this. We make all of our sandwiches on focaccia here at Sprout. So you can cut the dough in half. We've got these nice little mini loaf pans, so we can make small little individual loaves and serve them with soup or chili. So I've just got some cooking spray here. Just spray the pans. And then with your little pieces, if you want to individually knead them to little balls, plop them right in there. This dough is super easy and fast to make, and it's a crowd pleaser. Everybody always loves it. And if you want to be really have everyone perfect, then you can cut your dough into pieces and weigh it out so it's all the same. But it's just as good to eyeball it too. So you've got your little ones, and then I've got this other little pan here. We'll make one big loaf with. And when you're doing a big pan, I like to use a little bit of oil on the top so your fingers don't get all sticky like mine are now, and just press it down. So it forms to the pan. So now we've got a nice loaf here. This will double in size. And you want to set your dough in a warm place in your kitchen, not like on the stove, but maybe beside the stove, just in a warm spot. And about 20 to 30 minutes, it's going to rise up, it's going to double in size, and that means it'll be ready for the oven. So we'll wait about 30 minutes and we'll see what happens. After 20 minutes in the oven, our bread is ready to come out. And you can see these little loaves have risen nicely and they're nice and golden brown. And same with our loaf of bread. So if you want to brush the top with a little bit of butter, that's totally optional, and otherwise let them cool for a few minutes before you dig in.